First step, getting a lawyer. You don't want me to be the first lawyer you ever hire. If you do, you've just failed. You need a lawyer for primarily the formation of what it is you're structuring, what it is you're doing. Can you create an LLC on your own? Yeah, you can. Can you do it correctly? Probably not. Because what you're creating for your venture is going to be only as good as the machine that you have generated. So where we tend to see problems a lot is somebody started off some business venture, they become quite successful, but they didn't document stuff very well. And so when the problem hits, things crash and burn. And if they had good documents, they wouldn't have ever got to that point. So in essence, what I'm saying for getting a good lawyer is pay him now, little amounts, or pay him later, big amounts. I'm expensive, but the guy that creates the LLC for you at the beginning is really quite cheap in doing that process. So the creation of the entity, we actually did a separate seminar, and if you go to the firm website, which you can pull off of my card or off the screen in just a minute, the firm website has a hour-long seminar on the difference between S Corps, C Corps, and LLCs, and which one you might want to choose. The generality I can give you is that most purposes for most closely held companies, for most 1 or 2 or 3 partner kinds of groups, you're probably in today's market going to want an LLC as opposed to an S Corp or as opposed to a C Corp. But there are reasons to have those other two. Mostly they're tax driven, and what your needs are going to determine whether that's a different form that you might need. But most people kind of go for the LLC. But like I said, for documentation, that LLC is only as good as its operating agreement. So my first question to somebody when they come in and say, well, I got a problem, where's my business, what do I do? I'd ask them, well, where's your operating agreement? Oh, I don't have one. Well, you got a serious problem. That operating agreement really does control things that you need. And candidly, you can't really do some of the other things we're going to talk about in just a minute without that operating agreement for most banking and that sort of stuff. Okay. And then the final element is for all the business contracting and things that you're doing. If you've got a relationship with a good business lawyer, they will help you with the big contracts, the big deals, the big things that you need to do so that you don't do something that's going to really blow up in your face down the road. Sounds great today, tomorrow becomes a problem. Okay. Second big area of problems that we encounter are people that don't have proper accounting information. Now, most of us are not accountants. I happen to be an accountant, I shouldn't say that. Most people are not accountants. They don't have the accounting background. They can't run QuickBooks themselves. They don't know what a profit and loss statement is. They don't know what a balance sheet is. They don't know how to put the data into the computer. They don't know how to spit out forms and things like that. So they're kind of doing it on the seat of the pants. And as my first wife would have said, unless I said first wife, well, I still have checks in my checkbook. Doesn't that mean I can still write them out? No, that's really a bad way to do your accounting. Because you need somebody that's really going to do that for you. So your first step is deciding, can you yourself capably do your accounting work? If you are somebody that has that kind of a background and you can run QuickBooks yourself, hallelujah, you're going to save some money. But you probably always need a CPA or an accounting type of person to help you with your taxes for your entity at the end of the year. And so you should always have a connection with somebody for that accounting work. Whether it's just a bookkeeper type or whether it's a full CPA type. And so you want to create that relationship up front. So deciding whether you're going to have the outside person do the day-to-day bookkeeping or just the end of the year information and the tax preparation, return and that sort of thing. But your state and federal licensing and things like that, your accountant is also good at helping you with those sorts of things if you've got a good local bookkeeper type of person. Because for most people, they don't know how to do the licensing, the withholdings, the payroll, and stuff like that. Should you use an outside service? Can you do it yourself? If you've got employees, if you don't really know how to do that, please don't try because you're going to mess it up. And the taxing authority tends to pound you in the head when the bills are really big. They don't tend to come to you really nicely up front and say, well, let us show you how to do these forms. No, that isn't what happens. They just pound you later on. So getting hooked up with an accountant right up front is very critical. Next, which gets us to the licensing themselves. Every type of business needs at least a type of license in Arizona. It may just be an operating license, it may just be a city license, but there's always some kind of license that you need whether you realize it or not. A lot of businesses need multiple forms of licensing or more complicated, like if you're a a contractor, you're going to need a contractor's license. You're going to need the right category and that sort of stuff. But always look at what kind of license you need. It's not a good idea to figure out you need a license after you've operated for a year and you haven't paid any licensing fees, because they might be huge if you're a contractor. But figuring that up front and making sure that you have that is going to be critical, because take the contractor again, for instance. If I'm out there doing contracting work and I happen to be under the $1,000 per job limitation in a certain category, then I'm going to be okay because I'm under the limits and I could be able to sue on the job when I don't get a job paid. But am I going to sue over $1,000? Probably not. But if I'm over $1,000 in my contracting job and I don't have a license, I have zero ability to file a lawsuit against somebody. So I have that $20,000 contract that was wonderful when I went into it. Now I can't sue on it because I don't have a license. So it's an actual prohibition to bringing a lawsuit to collect your money. And again, most businesses need at least an operating license. I like that joke, that was
The
funny.
lemonade stand?
Yeah, that was a funny one. The lemonade stand probably can get away without a license, but I wouldn't recommend doing a lemonade business. You're not going to make any money. Taxes. Next big area of problems for most businesses is taxes. Why? Because the taxing authority doesn't show up to your door, doesn't make a phone call when you don't send in the payment that month. They don't bug you for months afterwards. So for most businesses, when they start to run into financial difficulty, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay that bill? I have these two things I need to pay. Which thing do I pay first? The taxing authority is a really easy one to fall in the trap of not paying, because nobody's screaming at you when you don't pay it. The squeaky wheel tends to get the grease. Taxing authority doesn't squeak very much. Problem is they're really powerful when they finally get around to pounding you. And they can shut down businesses pretty drastically when the taxes aren't paid. So as a general proposition, I would always say, if you've got a tax report of some sort that you need to prepare and file, at least prepare it. And then at least file it. Because even if you don't actually have the money to pay it, at least you're not creating additional penalties for a failure to file. You'll only have the failure to pay penalty. There's always multiple levels of penalties when you don't pay your taxes when you're supposed to. So limit your exposure, and if you have the tax return prepared and filed, you at least know what your liability is, even if you're not able to pay it today. So limit your liability as much as you can. And like I say, as you fall behind on paying, penalties start to pound you, and when you get to the point of collection efforts, that's when you're really calling me. I would say, at least 50% of what we see are people that have a taxing problem of some sort because they just wanted to think about their tax payment tomorrow. Oh my goodness, I've been running for a year, I'm making so much money, I've just been so busy, I haven't been able to pay any of my withholdings. Holy smokies, I owe a lot of money because it's been a year because I've been making lots of money and I haven't paid any of my withholdings. And that's when they fall behind. And when they fall behind on the first one, and then they figure out what they owe, well, now I'm on to the second one, and then the third one becomes really easy because, the third murder is way easier than the first and second murder, that kind of a thing. So please catch the issue early. Don't let it compound on you because it just doesn't go away. And most penalties, most taxes don't go away in bankruptcy without a lot of time passing underneath them. And none of them go away if you didn't file the returns on time. So always file the returns on time, even if you possibly have a reason why you don't have the ability to pay. Okay, next. Negotiations for credit. Okay, as you're out there, your first thing is getting a banking relationship with somebody. Where do I have my bank account? How do I have banking privileges with somebody? Will my bank give me credit? I'd like to do this big job over here, but I don't have the cash to buy the materials to go do the thing that I want to do. Creating that banking relationship with a banker that actually you can pick up the phone and talk to is huge. Now, most of the big boys, big banks, aren't really your necessarily friend when you're a little teeny operation, but they can become your friend when you become a big operation. They tend to have a little bit lower rates. Problem is they don't have very good service. And so most people, when they're starting out in a business, really need the service. And so you probably should gravitate towards a smaller type of bank because they'll give you better service and they'll tend to give you credit a lot sooner than the big boys will. But you got to create the relationship first. So you're going to somebody hey, I got this brand new company, just went to my lawyer, got a new LLC, got a new operating agreement. Oh, do I have to have an operating agreement to open up an account with you? Here you go. Here's my certificate that I actually am in good standing with the Corporation Commission. I've done all my stuff. Here's really cool. Banker says, great, I need a resolution to say that it's okay for you to open up an account here. What's a resolution? Well, if you got a nice banker, they're going to say, well, here's the form. Go ahead and fill this out and bring it back to me, and then you can open up the account with them. The banker will, if they're a good service, will help you out with some of those things. But then the next question is credit. Will you give me any kind of credit so I can do the next big job that I don't have the cash flow yet to be able to fund? And how much does that credit cost? Most people walking into the bank think, here's what they charge, here's what I must pay. They don't think they can negotiate the terms. You can always negotiate terms with the bank, just like you would with a supplier or a customer. You can always negotiate terms. You can always ask. If the banker says, sorry, I'm not going to give that to you, well, now you have the answer. But they're not going to get mad at you for asking, hey, you're charging 14% on this line of credit. Could I get it for 10? Sure. Could I get it without a personal guarantee? Okay. Well, hallelujah. Why? Because I just created an LLC that's supposed to shield me from personal liability. And as soon as I sign that personal guarantee on that credit line, I've just exposed myself personally to the business's obligation. That's my whole purpose for creating an LLC. I didn't want to expose myself. Well, if you don't ask, the banker is absolutely going to want a personal guarantee, especially for a small startup company. So ask. And if you've got a lawyer or an accountant that works with you, they can help you. They can look over the forms and say, hey, did you realize you're signing a personal guarantee on this? This is exposing you to all the debt of the business. Do you really want to do that? And maybe you have to. Maybe the answer is, this is your interest rate, you're stuck with it. This is the personal guarantee that I need, you're stuck with it. And go out and be productive, but sorry, those are my terms. And so at the beginning, maybe that's what you have to do. But as time goes on, renegotiate. Hey, I've been a good customer with you for a year. How about you give me an interest rate that's lower? How about you take away my personal guarantee? Always look for better deals because people will give you the better deals. And the most important thing for most people is read the documents. You get this big, think of when you went and got your last house and you receive this massive deed of trust document. You're like, I don't know what that is. Deed of trust. Is that the same thing as a mortgage? Is it different? Are there terms in here that I like that I don't like? Probably. Probably lots of terms that you don't like. Can I read through them and take some of them away? Yes, you can. But you don't ever think to ask. So you just sign the document and say, thank you very much, I'm so glad I got my house. Oh, look it, I've got a whole bunch of problems if I can't make my payment that I didn't think about. Okay? So read, make sure you know what the documents are saying. Employees, well, that's a nice day when you think, I am so good, so well, so productive now that I need to hire somebody else. Hallelujah, I can lessen what's on my to-do list. Well, unfortunately, employees tend to cause more things on your to-do list than lessen, but you eventually get to the point in your wonderful, thriving new business that you got to hire an employee to help you do something. Maybe it's just being a salesperson, maybe it's a production line person, maybe it's somebody that's running the accounting stuff that you hate. Maybe it's somebody that's doing something that you just don't enjoy doing in your day, so it's going to be nice and helpful to you. Having employees isn't a bad thing, it can be a very good thing. Managing employees is where you get messed up, because back to the accountant and to the lawyer thing, you're going to have requirements legally and accounting wise for those employees. You can't just hire an employee and then not pay him, or what happens? The employee doesn't come to work. I'm not getting paid, I'm not going to come to work. You can't just hire the employee and not pay withholding taxes for the employee, because not only do you owe their portion that you withhold out of their paycheck, you also owe the company portion that it's supposed to pay for what's being paid for taxes. So once you get to the employee level, if you weren't having really great warm fuzzies on your accounting and bookkeeping work, you absolutely need to start looking for outside help at that point, because you will probably get it wrong if you're not very sophisticated in handling your QuickBooks and knowing what you should do for payroll and things like that. An outside payroll service is just not that expensive in the Arizona market. Finding somebody else to do the payroll is just not that expensive for the burden that it is to you if you try to do it yourself. It's really hard to fill out those forms for anyone to do. So when you get to the employees, Remember, no pay, no play. You don't pay the employees, they're going to go away. And when you get down to the lower categories of damages and hiring and firing, that deals with when you've got an employee where you need to get rid of one, making sure you're getting rid of one appropriately. Screaming at them and kicking them out the front door is not necessarily the appropriate way to get rid of an employee. And so you might need to be looking back at that lawyer, that business person you're talking to about what's the right way to get rid of somebody that is causing me problems and I need to get rid of them. So you make sure you handle things in the right way so you don't get yourself sued from an employee. Because we also have employment lawyers in my firm, so we can help you on both sides of that. All right, marketing. Stacy over there. When you start a company, you got to decide, do I know what I'm doing or do I need to hire a Stacy type of person? Can I capably market myself? Do I know how to get on Facebook and Twitter and Google crap and all that sort of stuff to be able to get people to come to want to buy my widgets? Or do I need to hire a professional to do it because I'm not capable of doing it? Now, most companies when they're first starting out probably don't have the resources to hire a professional marketing person. But then again, most companies when they're first starting out probably don't have the skill to do it themselves either. So you got to catch 22. How do I get my marketing done so that I actually drive people to want to buy whatever I do or sell without making it cost me so much that I can't possibly make $1 anymore? What's the trade-off? And it's a tug and a pull. But you got to find yourself somebody that you like, figure out, talk to somebody else that's done it in your industry, see what they do, compare notes. Maybe they know somebody that's really good. But figure out for yourself, how am I going to get customers to come to me to buy and do what I want as opposed to my competitor down the street? How do they come over here better? And that's all marketing. Communications. This is kind of a pet peeve of mine. Maybe because I have way too many personal issues, I don't know. But there's a hierarchy in my mind of what's good communication and what's bad communication. The highest and best form of communication is what we're doing right now, face-to-face. Because I can say something and you can understand what I'm saying, you can interact with me, you can ask me a question and I can answer it. There's a lot less possibility of us having a lack of understanding when we're talking face-to-face. So when you get a customer that you want to have some kind of communication with, your immediate desire is pulling back to the worst form of communication, which is texting, because I don't have to really confront them if I'm texting them something. I can just give them a little bit of note and, okay, now maybe they're going to answer me appropriately. The problem is you haven't created an interpersonal relationship then. That person has absolutely no idea the feeling behind what you said, and since it's a text, it's probably also going to be miscommunicated. So, face-to-face is highest, lowest is text. What's in between? A whole bunch of different levels. So face-to-face, telephone call, we still have words. We don't see each other, but at least we have words between us. And I can say something, they can misunderstand it, they can ask for clarification, we can have conversations. We come to a meeting of the minds about something. A formal letter, not as good as a telephone call, but it is more solid, so that you can say something, you can think about it, you can send it out in a way that is coherent, and then you can have communication with somebody. But it's a very formal form of communication. That's why I think we created emails, because we say things in emails that are on a much less formal basis, but it also isn't quite as solid as when you get a letter in the mail. Now, granted, as society moves, people are going much more towards email communication than they are formal letters. And someday, formal letters will probably become obsolete, because we'll just do them informally through an email. But at least you think about what you're writing down when you do an email. Because when you're all the way down to the level of text, let's face it, you don't really think about that text like you ought to. You just send out something, hey, what's up, send. Doesn't really communicate very much. And it's really easy to misinterpret because it's very brief. You can get it wrong. The other person is going to misunderstand what you're saying. So you probably have to have back and forth 10 times. Think about when you're just trying to set up dinner appointment with your spouse and you're like, where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? I'm not hungry. Are you hungry? And think how many communications go back and forth before you actually decide where you're going to dinner, what time you're meeting, and do you even want to eat? Well, one phone call, you get that problem solved immediately. not 50 texts. Pet peeve of mine. I don't like the 50 texts. I like the one phone call. But as you're communicating with your clients, with your vendors, think about that hierarchy and think about the interpersonal relationships you're making with people, because when I have somebody come in it's like, oh my gosh, the taxing authority is killing me. I don't know what to do. I have to file bankruptcy. Life is horrible. And my next question is, okay, who are your key customers? Who are your key suppliers? How's your relationship with them? Because you probably owe your suppliers a lot of money too. Can you pick up the phone and call that supplier and say, hey, I know I owe you $10,000 for widget supplies. Work with me, because I got to go file bankruptcy, but I still owe you $10,000. Is that supplier going to say, hey, dude, I love you. No problem, I'll work with you. I want to keep working with you in the future. Will they say that? If you have an interpersonal relationship, possibly. If it's been a bunch of texts and they don't have a clue of who you are from Adam, you just became a bad debt. They don't want to work with you tomorrow. If you're filing bankruptcy, forget you. I'll go find somebody else to sell my parts to. I don't need you. Another person down the street. But if you have that good connection, yeah, they'll work with you. They'll stay with you. They'll want to continue to be with you. Your customers, really critically, because you want them to continue to buy from you so that you have a place to sell stuff to, so that your bankruptcy doesn't just crash and burn around you. Okay? So that's kind of my pet peeve, is interpersonal relationships. Collections, that's the other side of the business. One side is who I have to pay, the other side is I did a bunch of work for you. Would you pay me for it? Now, hearkening all the way back to the part about having a lawyer maybe look at your documents, good documents, good contracts are really nice and tight and enforceable. Bad documents, bad contracts are going to result in accounts receivable that are never going to be collected. So when you're dealing with your collections, staying on top of them ahead and front, again, that interpersonal communication and connection results in payments coming in. The sending a bill, ignoring it, waiting a month, sending another reminder, email, ignoring it, doing nothing about it, not bugging somebody. Just like you paying your bills, you pay the squeaky wheel first, your customers are going to pay their bills based upon their squeaky wheel. Be the squeaky wheel. Be a nice squeaky wheel, and you get paid even faster. So being on top of your customers in a way that makes them want to continue to do business with you tomorrow is a good thing, because then you get those receivables coming in quick. Things like giving discounts for quick pay really incentivize people to send in the check. Things like pounding them afterwards with a lawsuit really don't cause people to send in checks. So think proactive in front, and you will get better pay than being reactive and behind. Next. Okay, so the final topic is, of all the categories we've talked about, you have people that you like. You have people that you've enjoyed working with. Use those connections to help others. Ask for those connections as you're needing something new. So, I've never talked to a lawyer before. I don't know who to talk to. Well, what do you usually do? Hey, bro, who do you use for a lawyer? I know you just went through a divorce. Who did you use? That's a connection that's going to get you somebody that person liked, and that results in a good referral. Likewise, with your customers, with your suppliers, give them good referrals. Do nice reports, Yelps, and things like that. I personally don't know how to do Yelps, sorry. But I know from others that those are good things to help other people to get business. So as you discover somebody that you like, give them to a friend. Pass the good word along, and somebody else will be thankful to you for helping them out. Put it in the lawyer world. Everybody hates lawyers. It's an easy person to hate, right? But everybody loves their own lawyer. Why is that different? Because that person helped me out. The other guy's lawyer is the worst person on the face of the planet. We have an A word that we would use for them, right? That person's a bad person. Why? Because they didn't help me out. They caused me problems. That's how connections are made. So as you create connections that you find good, pass them along to others.